Hi, morning to you. You're watching Breakfast with Dan and Louise.
It is just approaching 7:30 now. Boris Johnson has said he's looking forward to working closely with Joe Biden as America's president-elect prepares to take office. The question is, I suppose, what will that new relationship look like? Let's speak to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, who joins us live on Breakfast this morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being with us.
Morning, Dan.
I wasn't working on the day where you were speaking to BBC Breakfast a few weeks ago, where I think you were one of the first to publicly condemn the violence that we saw at the Capitol building in Washington. I wonder this morning, Home Secretary, will you be pleased to see the back of President Trump?
Well, look, this is a new era now in US politics with the incoming administration and the inauguration today. It's a very, very big moment in America, but also for the world. And I think actually we should put some of this into the context of what we saw 2 weeks ago with those protests, with those riots, and obviously the violence that then unfolded. The fact of the matter is, for us in the United Kingdom, of course, we have an incredible relationship with the United States. We're stronger together in terms of our alliances. There are so many issues and challenges that the world faces. We will continue to work in a very positive and proactive manner with the new incoming Biden administration.
So will you be pleased to see the back of Trump?
We have to look forwards, not go backwards.
OK, but in terms of, as you said, this important relationship with the United States going forward?
Well, I think in terms of the overall assessment of our relationship, it is a very, very strong, it's a special relationship that we have with the United States. That will continue. Our Prime Minister has been in touch with President-elect Biden, and they have spoken and they've already discussed some of the big global challenges that both our countries face, but actually the world faces. And this will be an exciting time for us to be working with a new president. In terms of the Trump administration, of course, we've worked with his administration in a very positive and proactive way at a time when the world has faced a number of challenges. You know, first of all, coronavirus. So we've been very forward-leaning and very strong on some of those issues. And of course, we have worked with the administration dealing with some of those really awful, abhorrent issues, terrorism, threats to our own national security and our homeland security, but also some of the bigger challenges that we've seen in the world linked to this pandemic, and also just, you know, strengthening global institutions. These are issues that obviously persist, and we will continue to work with the Joe Biden administration on many, many of these challenges.
Can I ask you, relationship going to be, and where do you think Joe Biden sees our Prime Minister?
Well, I think, you know, that first of all, it's not for me to comment about how Joe Biden may view our Prime Minister or our government. The fact of the matter is we have a strong working relationship. The Prime Minister and President-elect Biden have already been in touch. They've already spoken. They've had discussions about, you know, leading the world on many of the shared challenges that we all face. We face these as two strong, healthy democracies, two global leaders when it comes to international values, our place in the world. How to say that within the context of UK leadership in the world right now as well. We are, you know, holding the presidency of the G7 this year. We're hosting COP26. We hold the chair of the UN Security Council. These are substantive global platforms post-pandemic, and how we can absolutely strengthen our institutions and obviously our global way of working on a range of policy areas.
And in terms of the UK on a global stage, in terms of our moral code?
No, absolutely not. And I should say, you know, Theresa May, when she was Prime Minister, achieved a great deal, yes, internationally and domestically. But the fact of the matter is, when the Prime Minister was Foreign Secretary, he was the architect of that global Britain vision about the United Kingdom being more open and innovative global partner government. So we've not lost our way. And as I've said, we hold the presidency of the G7, we'll hold the chair of the UN Security Council, we'll be leading the way on climate when we host COP26. There are so many issues, in fact, personal issues that the Prime Minister himself has been a passionate advocate of, girls' education just being one of those. Look at the work that we're doing internationally on the COVAX vaccine, immunising children around the world. These, because we're focused on coronavirus, many of the domestic challenges that we have right now, obviously protecting the NHS, but we are absolutely clear as a country, as a nation, as is our Prime Minister, with the leadership that he gives us internationally, that we are a force for good in the world, and that is effectively what Global Britain is all about.
Finally, on the relationship with the American president.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognise the incredible work that my colleague in government, Liz Truss, the Trade Secretary, has done already in looking at terms of trade, in terms of securing a trade.
Home Secretary, I don't want to run out of time, so just can I press you on when we might see that, a timescale, if you could.
Well, I can't tell you when we'll see that. That's work in progress, but it is an important objective for us, along with many other areas where we work in a constructive way where we will be working in a constructive way with the incoming administration.
Looking at things domestically in the UK, a record number of fatalities from coronavirus, 1,610, 100,000 deaths from coronavirus. Can you, as Home Secretary this morning, can you put into some sort of scale, some sort of context, the scale of this tragedy?
Well, I put this in the scale of the tragedy that every single life loss, every single death is a personal and human tragedy. As you yourself have said, so many people have been touched, all our lives have been touched and altered by coronavirus, which is why we're in the current situation having a national lockdown, why you've heard me say before, as have many of your viewers as well, we have to absolutely focus on patrol just on Monday in central London, Guy's St Thomas's Hospital. Incredible work that's taking place there. People obviously in the NHS can say hand on heart that, you know, we're out of the woods yet. We have a long way to go. The vaccine rollout is a positive step forward, but we've obviously got to vaccinate a very significant number of the population. That work is taking place. But every single death is a tragedy, we all know. And this whole pandemic has affected families at home and abroad in an absolutely harrowing and devastating way.
Home Secretary, if we look at the sort of comparable figures, we've got double the death rate nearly of Spain and...
Well, I don't think this is the time to talk about mismanagement. I mean, we've been with this virus pandemic for about a year now, and it's a global pandemic across the world, and governments respond, you know, very differently. We've seen that across the world, but based on the facts, the science, the evidence that is effectively presented to us as decision makers. Now, I think the fact of the matter is we've seen just deaths around the world, harrowing death tolls around the world. You know, so this isn't just about...
But the UK's is one of the worst in Europe, and I think the fifth worst on the global stage.
But there'll be a range of reasons for that. There won't be one specific reason. In the United Kingdom, we see particularly, you know, certain cohorts that have been affected by coronavirus. We see people with comorbidities dying from this virus, being all susceptible to this virus. Working with scientists, working with medics, working with the professionals who've been guiding us throughout this. So there is no one reason as to why we have, you know, an appalling death toll. The numbers are deeply tragic, and this is a human tragedy that could have been taken. Some measures we may not have even taken right now, and understand and look at why that may have been the case.
If you don't mind, could we look back with a little bit of humility this morning? You mentioned the test and trace system, which was set up in March, abandoned in April. There's been more than £20 billion spent on that, and it still hasn't been effectively working. We're only now asking foreign travellers to get a negative test before they arrive in the UK. There's 100,000 deaths in the UK.
Well, I don't think that's the right way to contextualise this at all. You've heard me say government has listened to a range of advice and followed advice from professionals and advisors, medical, scientific, from day one of this pandemic, particularly from the health side, who've been very much leading the government response. When it comes to border measures, for example, there was a lot of work that took place last year, both in transport, both in the Home Office, but also working with the scientists who made a difference to have taken border measures. When it came to lockdown, again, we listened to advice from those who were putting recommendations. And, you know, we make decisions at that time, and as evidence changes and circumstances changes, then, you know, decisions change and lockdowns change and tiering changes. But the fact of the matter is we've all been, I think, you know, with humility, if I may say so, we have learned through this pandemic. We all learn, and it's not just this government, it's governments around the world, this pandemic.
There's a couple of other things I would like to talk to you about this morning, if I could, Home Secretary. One, what the current situation is with that, how much of that has been recovered and what sort of damage has been done?
So at this stage, we are still washing through the data and we are applying new coding to the police national computer in terms of calls, primarily because this isn't just one computer, there are other systems that are linked to this computer, cases, policing records. What I can say, first of all, is that the police national computer is working for law enforcement partners. We know what has happened in terms of retrieving data. This will take time because it is a coding error. It is from other systems. That is effectively what we will do, and that will potentially take time, but that is another option for us right now. But I can't sit here and give you the numbers because this is a new code that has been applied to the police national computer, and it's taking time for that code to flush through the data.
You're also speaking today about a crackdown on drug crime specifically. I remember reporting on this programme, there was a record number of drug-related deaths back.
Well, there are a number of reasons. I've made it my priority as Home Secretary over the last year to focus on rolling up what I call county line drug gangs, so to transport drugs, being gangs, and we see far too much devastation across the entire country. Had amazing law enforcement results over the last year in terms of thousands of drug. Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, and I have come together to look at an end-to-end approach in terms of how we can now provide rehabilitation and treatment for drug addicts in particular. So we're now putting in £80 million, part of a wider package where we work with local authorities, health providers to provide drug rehabilitation, something that we've not been doing enough of. I'll be very candid about that. So this is the largest sum of money that is going into rehab programs dealing with addiction. This is the largest sum of money in 15 years. So we've got 5 pilot programs that are taking place. This is part of our levelling up agenda. But, you know, we have to do much. We have a high number of drug deaths in this country, as you yourself have just referred to. There's a lot more to do, and this is the start of a new way of working on drug rehabilitation, while at the same time we crack down on the law enforcement side through rolling up county line drug gangs.
We're out of time, Home Secretary. Appreciate you speaking to us live on the programme this morning. Thank you. Priti Patel.
7:46 exactly. Sally's looking at the sport. There's good news for Leicester, isn't there?
Could Leicester
Oh, Shauna, they look amazing. And what we'll do is we'll put them on all our social media so people can look at them, but they look brilliant. And one day we'll climb together because we were meant to be doing that.
No, yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't do that, but hopefully soon.
It's not your fault. Listen, lovely to see you, Shauna Coxey. Thank you very much indeed, and best of luck with your training as well.
Thank you, Shauna. I like the way
Thank you. Have a great day.
And you as well. I like the way we've all been sort of climbing walls, and she's actually climbing walls.
She's probably better at it than we are.
Yeah, slightly better. And
Thanks,
maybe
Shauna.
not as furious with everybody about it.
All right, stay with us. Headlines come out shortly.
Buried under centuries of history and iPlayer.